welcome. It is Q&A time, and this is the last Q&A of the year, which is kind of, happy, sad, but it's the last Q&A of the year. I normally do the Q&A the last Tuesday of the month, but because of the festive season, I'm going to do the last Q&A today. Things will be back to normal next month with our live Q&As. Last Tuesday of the month, I will be going live for the entire of 2023, answering your sleepy questions. So today is our last Q&A. So if you do have any sleepy questions, then please pop those down in the comments. I'm going to be answering as many of those questions as I possibly can in the time that we have. Last time I did this Q&A at home on my phone, nobody could hear me, which kind of sucked. So I'm hoping that everything is working well. Facebook has not been really that great for me for doing these Q&As because it just will crash, or I don't see any comments, or nobody can hear anything. So I hope everything is working okay, and I'm just going to keep talking until somebody says this isn't working, and then I'm out of here. So I hope you're doing good. I hope you are all ready for the festive season, and I hope that you've not too worried about sleep and about how sleep is going to be impacted, because it most certainly will be during the festive season. We've got a lot going on. It can be really, really jam-packed. We can have visitors. We can be going places. We can be doing all sorts of things, which can really make sleep really wonky, and it can be a little bit worrying. But I'm sending everybody sort of like some good sleepy vibes for the festive season. I tell you a little bit about me, and then we'll get into the good stuff. But if in the meantime you do have a sleepy question, you can just pop that in the comments. So I'm going to be answering as many as I possibly can in the time that we have. My name is Rebecca Mickey. I'm a Seattle-based children's sleep consultant and author. And I work with families who have children under 6 years old. So that's obviously a real broad range of ages and issues that I work with. I'm a gentle, no-cry sleep consultant, so I'm not advising you to leave your children to cry it out. And in fact, sleep training is kind of a last resort. There's so many other things that we can do to encourage better sleep, and those are the things that I really like to do, and I really like to work on to get some better sleep. I'm also pretty realistic when it comes to sleep. So, I'd love it if your 6-week-old was sleeping through the night, but it's not really very realistic, and we can't really expect that to be the case. Though, of course, there are 6-week-olds who are sleeping through the night. Apparently, they exist. I don't ever see these kids, but apparently they do exist. And I'm working with the ones who are not, but I'm not even working with 6-week-olds. Give me a 6-month-old who's waking up multiple times a night, and then I can help you. But, even though I can certainly help with children who are newborns, there's not a huge amount that we can do until we're getting to about 3 months old. Then we can work on things. So you can find me on my website, childrensleepconsultant.com. You can find me there, and you can, real extensive blog. And over this last year, I've been doing far more mini masterclasses, which are videos rather than blog posts. But you can, if you do have any sleepy questions, you can always go to childrensleepconsultant.com. Just go to the blog page and just search if you've got questions on naps. It's going to then bring up every mini masterclass that I have, every video that I have, and every blog post that I have on naps. So there's a great way that you can get all your questions answered in between our live Q&As. You can also find me on slumberacademy.com, and this is my membership site where we are really gently working on your child's sleep with some gentle sleep training. If that's what you want to do, we have many real extensive masterclasses on there going really in depth into common and not so common sleep issues. As well as that gentle sleep training. We have live weekly Q&As there. So Slumber Academy members will be joining me on Thursday. This time on Thursday, we have our weekly Q&A there, and it's a great way that we can be developing a plan just for you. that's a really great way to do that, is that during one of our Q&As, let me know sort of where you are, a little bit about your child, and then we can work on developing that plan together. And that's a great way then of continuing to get support each week for where you are, how it is that you need to be making some tweaks and changes. So that's about me. I'm based in Seattle, and it is it's like a blizzard outside right now. And I know a lot of the US is really, really cold right now. I mean, bitterly cold. I was trying to fathom how much, like -30 Fahrenheit. That's just kind of beyond my comprehension, that cold. The wind chill of -30 Fahrenheit, I can't even imagine. I'm sort of like not enjoying 29 degrees. I can't even fathom. I've been trying to sort of like figure out, I can't even imagine how cold that is. Not nice. So I hope you're keeping warm wherever you are, because it's not very pleasant. Oh, and it's my birthday today as well, which is super exciting. I wanted to come and do a birthday Q&A because it's my birthday, which is great. Okay, I see Ashley's question here. Thank you, Ashley, for popping your question down. My 4-month-old is not sleeping well. I'm sorry. He had open heart surgery almost 2 months ago. Oh my gosh. And they did tell us to expect a spike in energy, but it has not dropped. Naps are about 15 minutes, 3 times a day, and he's still up frequently at night. Is there anything you could recommend for us to try with him? Oh my gosh, yes, Ashley, I have so much actually that we can actually work on to encourage your 4-month-old, especially with those naps. And those naps where they are short, about 15 minutes, is actually quite a quick fix to the naps that are that short. It's actually quite a quick fix, which is great. It's not a fix for when your child has woken up. When your kiddo's woken up from a 15-minute nap, that then is not so easy, because the 15-minute nap or a 20-minute nap we'll often see is due to the brain being overly stimulated before your child goes down for their nap. So they are busy, looking around, playing with things, interacting with things. And these things, obviously, especially because everything's still so new for your child, it kind of fills up their brain. And you just kind of want to think of that as a sort of like, empty, waking up. And then it just kind of fills up with, oh, look at this exciting table leg. And then there's mom. And then and it's just everything sort of is very, very exciting. And the brain can get overly stimulated, obviously. Now, as adults, when we find something visually overly stimulating, we are really good at managing this ourselves. And so what we'll do is we'll glance away, or we'll do a longer blink. And it's something we don't even think about. We just naturally do this when we need sort of that little bit of a break, to the point where we're just like, I got to get out of here. This is just too much. But for your child, they're not able to do that. And so when things are really overly stimulating, and it's not necessarily the most big, brightest, loudest, flashing light things, it could be that chair leg that they're looking at. That's the thing that is just like overly stimulating. And you'll notice that your child does this, especially with this age, where they'll get that 1,000-yard stare, that kind of real blank stare. That's their brain getting overly stimulated. So if you see this just as part of your playtime, or you often see this as you're getting on with your the longer they've been awake, because their brain's more full at that point, then what you want to do is you want to scoop them up from whatever it was that they were doing and just walk around with them. So it's a slow, rhythmic walk where you are just walking around with them. You can look at pictures on the wall, you can look out of the windows, and it's just a slow kind of rhythmic walk for about, you just want to help so the brain relax a little bit. So depends on your child, but some people do this for 5 minutes, some people do it for 10 minutes, some people will just do for a couple of minutes, and then they're good. Your child can even go back and play with what it was that they were playing with, and then they're going to be fine. But this helps just bring the brain down just a little bit more relaxed. So if you're going to do this walking wind down before you begin your nap time routine, or whenever you see your child get that 1,000-yard blank stare, this is going to help sort of bring that stimulation level down, because you want to think of this stimulation as going up the stairs. So they wake up in the morning and they're right at the bottom. And then as they're interacting and playing, they're going sort of up and up and up. And then if they're kind of up here and you're trying to get them down for the nap, this brain's still overly stimulated. You get a 15-20 minute nap, quick, urgent wake up. And then because that nap was just so crappy, that's not helped their brain sort of kind of empty out. And so then they're getting even more, they're awake then and they're already overly stimulated. They're getting even more overly stimulated, even more overly stimulated. And then at the end of the day, they are up here, and then that can negatively impact their nighttime sleep as well. So if we can bring them back down a little bit before the first nap, or when you see they're getting overly stimulated, then they'll have a better nap, which will bring them down a little bit more. And then they've got now their next awake period, and then they're going up, and then you're going to bring them back down with a nap. So at the end of the day, they're not as overly stimulated, but it makes those naps a little bit easier. So a walking wind down can be really, really helpful. 5-10 minutes before you begin your nap time routine, and then you're going to end your walking wind down where you're going to start your nap time routine, which could be, in the bedroom, wherever that is. And definitely have a nap time routine. If your child is getting overly stimulated, they're going to really benefit from having a nap routine as well. This is something that we don't necessarily do. We'll often do this for a nighttime routine, getting ready for bed at night, but you want to do something for nap time as well. Doesn't need to be strict, doesn't need to be long. It can be 10 minutes maximum. And whenever you're home, doing the same thing, same place, same order. So that can be going into the bedroom, closing up the curtains, getting into a sleep sack, sitting down, singing a song, reading a book, feeding, whatever that is. But you want to have at least 3-4 steps to that nap time routine and that consistency. Same thing, same place, same order. So your child knows that sleep is coming. When you start going through that routine, the brain then thinks, "Ooh, we're going to be going to sleep in a minute," and it starts getting ready to fall asleep. So that's nice. As they start getting ready to fall asleep, then it's easier for them to fall asleep. But also then, so that's happening. But also then, because there's the predictability of your routine, it's relaxing because your child knows what's going to be happening. We're not sort of like suddenly surprising them with doing this. So it's more relaxing for them as well. The more relaxed they are, the easier it is for them to fall asleep. You've already done your lovely little walking wind down. Then the brain's nice and relaxed. Get your child down to sleep however you want to get them down to sleep. It does not matter how you're going to do that. Rocking, feeding, them doing it themselves, whatever. It doesn't matter at all. It's all good. For this age, it's all completely fine. And then hopefully you'll get past that 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes. It's not going to suddenly stretch to an hour and a half. It might do, but probably not. But it'll work towards getting there. So if you may actually get more 45-minute naps, which is still a little bit on the shorter side, but it's not, it's way better than a 15-minute nap. So it will start lengthening out. So I would definitely work on that walking wind down. Look at your timings as well, because if your child is awake for too long, then they're going to be overtired. Overtiredness is really hard for your child to fall asleep and remain asleep. On the flip side, if your child is undertired, they're not going to need a long nap because they've not been awake for very long. Though falling asleep may actually happen, because if you've got consistent routines, that's your child may fall asleep pretty easy. But the nap will be short because they're not tired enough. So with a 4-month-old, probably want to be a maximum awake of about an hour and a half. I prefer to have maximum awake periods than a strict daily routine, because strict daily routines are, I think, completely unmanageable. So about an hour and a half of awake if you've had a good nap. This is where nap math comes in. It's as complicated as calculus. And it is really complicated because it depends on what kind of night your child had, how their previous nap was, and all of these things go into figuring out how long your next awake period wants to be. But the maximum is hour and a half ish. 4.5 months, that's all going to change, and it will begin to lengthen out a little bit. But hour and a half is normally pretty good for an awake period. And your nap time routine is done within that time. So you're working on getting down to sleep. Remember, however that happens, you're working on that happening at the at the hour and a half point. So not getting started at that point. So you want to, if you think, okay, we're going to be awake for an hour and a half, and we've got a 10-minute routine, and I'm going to do a 5-minute wind down, you need to start after an hour and 15 minutes, start getting ready for the nap. Set a timer on your phone or something so that you don't miss it, and then give it a few days and just see. You'll see where you've got wiggle room with your timings. You'll see where the wiggle room is there. But I wouldn't be too strict, but you need to be a little bit strict, just looking at how from what you've explained about your child with the 15-minute naps, it means that they're getting overly stimulated, probably has a bit more of an intense temperament, which is all good. Quick learners, so probably get on board with this fairly quick, which is why you want to give it a few days. But I think you'll notice that you are beginning to lengthen out, get some longer naps. But if you do get a 20-minute nap, you can try and get your child back down to sleep, but it's probably not going to work. So it's best just to get up, keep your play kind of calm, big long walking wind down, and then try again. That may be after only 20 minutes of being up and awake. Calm play, big walking wind down, try and get them back down. And that might get you back on track, because it's really hard after you've done that 15-minute and 20-minute nap to get your child back down to sleep. It's really tricky to do. It's worth a little go, but you're not necessarily going to be successful. So I'd try 5-10 minutes, even. I wouldn't even try 10 minutes, to be honest. 5 minutes, you'll know whether your child's going back down to sleep or not. They're probably not. That's then your time to leave the room, and then playtime, hanging out time, wind down, long wind down, and then try again, and you'll probably then be more successful, and you may get then a longer nap. And then some longer naps will just mean that you've got longer awake periods, which will mean that you've got longer naps, and which is going to help your nighttime sleep as well. Woohoo! Thank you. You know, it's one of the most, I think those short naps are one of the most stressful things, because you spend longer trying to get your kiddo down for a nap than they're actually napping. You know, with that whole winding down, doing a nap time routine, and then the actual whole getting them to sleep, and then they only nap 15 minutes. You've spent 30 minutes trying to get to that point, and you've got to that for 15 minutes, and it's so stressful. It's really stressful. But it's actually a pretty quick fix. But you've got to be proactive. It's not a quick fix for you woke up after 15 minutes. Let's fix this. It's more of a let's fix this for the next nap. So it's actually it's stressful, but it's actually a pretty easy thing to work on. And I like easy. Parenting is hard enough. So let's try and make sleep as easy as possible, and not as I don't want it to be stressful, because parenting is stressful enough. Let's make sleep easy. I always have a large cup of coffee with me for Q&As, because I've got to be on my toes here. Okay, let's see what questions we have come in. And if you're here and you do have a question, you can just pop that down. Let's see what questions we have. Okay, I've got to find the right form. Here we go. Okay. I have a couple of questions come in, but this one is not really enough information. I need as much information as I can possibly get to actually be able to help you. If it, just sort of with a question of, how do I get my 6-month-old sleeping through the night? I don't know. I'm not sure how to do that, because I don't know how many times they're up a night. They could be up once a night, in which case, you lucky duck you, or they could be up 10 times a night. So knowing a bit more information, that's where I can help you, is with that more information. because there could be a bazillion different reasons why your child is waking up 10 times, or they're waking up just once. Hunger comes into this, all sorts. Okay, so let's go and get another question. Here we go. Question from Lisa. She has a 2-year-old, and she says, we're traveling for the holidays and I'm worrying about how my 2-year-old's going to sleep. Oh, I get it. There's a lot of travel happening this time of year, and it can be really tricky because you're at home and you've got the way that your child is sleeping, and they're sleeping either great or maybe not so great. And now we're just going to throw things if we're traveling, but it could also be if you have people coming and visiting. It could be a whole multitude of reasons why sleep is going to get a little bit wonky. So there are some things that you can do to try and kind of minimize that. But honestly, don't worry. Whilst you're traveling or whatever's happening, it's not going to be a permanent thing. You're going to get back home. People are going to go back home. You're going to be going back to work. The kids are going to be back in preschool and daycare, and the nanny's coming back, and all of these things. You will get back to normal, and that's when you can work on getting sleep back to normal. So don't worry too much if things kind of get a little bit wonky and feel wonky. Now, there are certainly some things that we can do, but much like parenting, the holidays are a really, really stressful time. I think a lot of it is because of expectations that we put on ourselves for making the most amazing holiday time of year. And then if you're kind of getting worried about sleep, but that whole kind of stress that you're putting on yourself is going to be impacting sleep anyway. So deep breath, big cup of coffee, and let's see if we can make that a little bit easier. So if you are traveling, I do have a Facebook post that's coming out a little bit later today, which has got some tips on actually making the travel a little bit easier. But if you are traveling, then there are some things that you can do now to prepare for that, or to make that a little bit easier when you're there. So if you are going somewhere, you know what it's like when you travel. You've got the first night or two when you're sleeping somewhere new and you just don't sleep great. And that's me, definitely. I'll have a night or two where I just sleep really badly. The bed feels different. If I've not taken my pillow, the pillow feels different. And the temperature of the room's different, and it smells different. There's different noises and all of these things. And I think as well, it's probably quite a going back millennia of we're more aware. When we're somewhere different, we're just more hyper aware, and so that can make sleep a little bit tricky. And it's going to be the same for your child. So it may take them a couple of nights to get more comfortable with where they are, but there are a couple of things that you can do. For example, just the pajamas that they're wearing the night before you go, pop those into a Ziploc bag. You can even take the sheet from either the crib or their bed that's been on there, pop that in a Ziploc bag and take it with you, because then it's going to smell of home, and it's going to smell really familiar when you get to wherever it is, and you're putting that on the crib or on the bed, and you're getting your child then in their pajamas that really smell of home. So rather than that clean washed smell, it's going to just feel a little bit more comfortable, and that may make sleep a little bit easier for your child if the bed smells familiar. A lot of times people will take their pillow when they travel because it's just kind of familiar. It feels familiar. So you can even do the same thing. Take a pillow with you, take your kiddo's covers with you if need be. But if you can't do that because, taking a pillow and your duvet and all of those things on an airplane may not be practical, but you can take the pajamas and the sheet even, and put those in a Ziploc bag so they smell of home. And that can make sleep just a little bit easier. Stick with your routine. So the routine that you do at home, getting ready for sleep, nap time routine and your nighttime routine, stick with those. So continue to do so. The place that you do them is obviously going to be different, but if you are reading the same book, so your favorite books, and if you always say goodnight to the same stuffed animal, take that with you. do the same things in the same order. They're not going to be in the same place as normal, but you're going to be able to do those in the same order that you normally do. Then that again is cueing sleep coming. Your child knows that sleep is coming because you're doing these things. So that can really, really help. Biggest thing I think you could do to actually make sleep a little bit easier is to just expect it to get challenging. It is. So that means that your child is probably going to struggle more with falling asleep. Really overstimulating time of year anyway, but they're going to struggle more with falling asleep and remaining asleep, and so you're going to have more wake-ups. And so I'm not going to say embrace the wake-ups, because nobody really wants to be embracing middle of the night wake-ups, but just expect it. And I think if you expect it, it's not coming in, it's not at that shock, because then if you think, oh great, my kiddo is going to be sleeping through the night all night because that's what they do at home, and now suddenly they're waking up 4 times a night, you sort of like, it's just, you don't feel great. It just can be quite jarring, and it can just, then you feel that there's actually kind of something, oh my gosh, what's going on? There's something to fix. And there's not necessarily anything to fix. It's just your child getting used to where they are and what's happening. So just expect sleep to become a challenge. You can always work on getting back on track when you get back home. So when you're expecting sleep to be a challenge, give your child the extra help that they need. They may be completely independent, falling asleep at the beginning of the night at home, but they're not then when you are traveling. They may be completely independent, falling asleep normally, but when you have people visiting and staying with you, they're not. It really can be quite different, and so they are then going to struggle a little bit more, and they're going to have a tough time falling and remaining asleep. So give them that extra help that they need. But when you do give the extra help, as much as you possibly can, it's kind of a help ladder that you want to be giving. We don't want to be over helping straight away, because it may be that your child just needed a little bit of reassurance that it's okay and that they can fall asleep independently if that's what they've been doing. So if your child normally falls asleep independently, go through your routine and pop them into bed and do what you normally do. If you normally leave. If they're upset, come back. Don't leave them to be upset I wouldn't leave them to be upset at all. If they're kind of fussy, a bit whiny, then if you're comfortable doing that, then do. But honestly, I would just go and give your child the help. And then you want to be sort of like going up the help ladder. So you just start with the minimal amount of help. So that's probably just going to be going back into the room and letting them know that you're still there. When they know that you're still there, then you may be able to leave, or they may be able to then fall asleep. If they need a little bit more help, you can then go and go next to them. And then if you need to have more help, you can pick them up. You can be hands-on. And you just add more and more and more. But you're not instantly going in and scooping them up and then and helping them down to sleep. You're giving them then the help that they need without over-helping or under-helping. And you're fairly going to quickly go up that ladder. It's not that you've got to go into the room and give it 5 minutes to see if then that they soothed. You'll know pretty quickly whether that's working or not. And what happens is when you then go in, they'll quieten down because they think, okay, great. They're not sure what's happening, but they think that you're going to be there. But if they need to have a back rub, or they need to be picked up, you going in, they're going to think that that's going to happen, so they'll quieten down. But then if that doesn't happen, then they're going to let you know. And that's then when you can offer then a little bit more help. So that's when you'll then sort of go. So it happens fairly quickly that you're going up that ladder. So you'll know the help that you need to be giving. Give your child whatever help it is that they need. Don't overthink it and don't worry about it, because they need that help then. Now, the longer you're out of the good habits, the longer it's going to take you to get back on track. But you can always get back on track. Even if you've been out of the good habits for weeks on end, you can still work on getting back on track. And as your child settles into wherever it is that you're sleeping, then the sleep may get a little bit easier. But when you then get back home, this is the getting back on track part that is the important part here, because the longer you are the longer that things are different, then we create new habits. And that's when things can then become, if you don't work on getting back on track, probably not going to just naturally happen when you get back home. So let's just say you've been traveling for a week and now your child needed some extra help, falling asleep, they were waking up more and you were helping them more. And because you were staying with family, you didn't, whereas maybe you would let them fuss a little bit. You don't want to do that because you don't want to wake grandma up, which is fair. And then you're giving this extra help and these extra feeds maybe that you weren't doing at home. But now your child is used to that. So when you get home, they can continue to do that. And so you want to work on getting back on track. And so you want to do that as quick as you possibly can. You want to start working on getting back on track as quick as you possibly can. So I say generally night one, unless you get home really late. If you're getting home late and you're either, it's already gone past your child's bedtime or it's really close to bedtime, that would be a night of just do whatever you need to do. And then the next night you want to work on getting back on track. If you're getting back on track earlier, if you're getting home earlier, work on getting back on track night one. Because then you're sort of like, okay, this is how we do things here. This is how we do things. And the way you want to work on getting back on track is, again, kind of with that kind of help ladder, with that help, giving the help that you need. But you want to work on kind of going then down the ladder. So if you were right up there where you were needing to feed your child or to rock your child to sleep, then you want to be, okay, I'm going to either reduce down the amount that I'm feeding. If you're breastfeeding, that's with minutes. If you are cup feeding, bottle feeding, you can just reduce down the amount that you offer. If you've been rocking your child to sleep, you can slow the rock up, stop the movement sooner, not such big movements. So you're getting them then used to less help. Don't feel that it has to be, okay, now you're home, you're on your own for the entire night. That's a huge, huge, huge big step. You want little steps. Little steps are going to get you there and they're going to be much easier for you. They're going to be much easier for your child. And it's just much smoother and much nicer. Big giant leaps are never good for anybody. And it's just honestly a bit too much. So tiny little steps. So you could be slowing up the movement. You could be reducing down the amount that you're feeding. They still need the help, but get yourself a plan, a timeline on getting back on track, what that is going to look like. Is that going to be every 2 nights? You're going to work on getting a little bit less involved, reducing down the feed then again a little bit more, reducing down the movement. Depends how long you were out of the, when sleep was wonky. If sleep's wonky for a week, you could probably work on getting back on track every night, getting a little bit less involved. You should be pretty good then for back on track. But expect it's gonna be wonky. It just is going to be wonky, and just you do actually have to work on getting back on track, and it's okay. Don't worry, you can always get back on track. When it can become tricky is when your child is ready for a change. So obviously as children grow, their sleep needs change, and that's something that happens to all of us throughout our entire lives. Our sleep needs change as we grow older. And of course, that's the same for children. And what can happen is if your child is getting ready for a change, so if they're getting ready for a change in daytime routine, we'll often see this. So a change, maybe they need to lengthen out their awake periods a little bit or drop a nap. Then if that happens, and it's going, that's sort of on the horizon, it's going to be coming up. But then we really kind of change sleep. We travel. We'll often see this with illness as well. And then when we're trying to get back to where we were, we're really being mindful of nap times, things like that. When we're looking at really being mindful and we're really trying to get back on track, but we can't get back to where we were. And you're really struggling with your awake periods, or you can't get back on track at nighttime. You're still getting those wake ups, so your child's really struggling still to fall asleep. Then what you actually need to do is look and see, is there actually a change that I need to make with your daytime? 9 times out of 10, we want to look at the daytime, because tweaking that will help you get back on track with your nighttime. Now, this was a shift. This was a change, a developmental change in awake periods that was going to happen anyway. It was there. It was going to be happening. But this illness or travel or big thing, moving house, starting daycare, anything like this, can speed up this change that was naturally going to be happening anyway. So you may then need to, you're not ever going to get back on track to where you were if you're trying to stick with the same thing. So you may need to tweak that a little bit, and that could be lengthening out your awake periods a little bit, going from 1.5 hours maximum awake to 2 hours awake. Or maybe then from 2 hours awake to the 2, 3, 4. Maybe going from 2, 3, 4 to dropping down to 1 nap, or completely dropping naps altogether. Will probably help you, one, get your naps back on track, and then get your nighttime back on track. So this whole sort of it's really important we get back on track, but it can be really tricky to do if this happens. So try. If you can't do it after you're not making any progress in 3-4 nights, look and see, okay, is there any other changes I need to make right now? Is it developmentally appropriate for me to be lengthening out your awake periods or to be dropping a nap? And if so, work on that. That will help you get your days back on track and your nights back on track much, much quicker. Because that's something that we often see happens. And I think that's really tough because you're just trying to do everything as you work, because it worked. It was working before you traveled, and now you can't get there. You'll get there. You'll definitely get there, but you just need to make some tweaks and changes. So I guarantee we'll see this. Families that I'm working with now and families in Slumber Academy, we're going to see this as we get into the new year, and we're sort of looking at, okay, what changes do we need to make? And so we'll be looking at what schedule the child is already on, how things have got wonky, and then where we need to be making some changes there. How we need to be gradually working on lengthening out awake periods, because we don't want to suddenly do it, because keeping your child awake for an extra hour longer or even an extra 30 minutes longer can be too much. And you know what it's like when you've got an overtired child. They struggle to fall asleep and remain asleep. Same as when they're undertired. Struggle to fall asleep and remain asleep. So we want to gradually push them there, making those awake periods a little bit longer, or if we're dropping a nap completely, reducing down the duration of the nap. But it's a sad day, I think, when naps disappear. I remember it felt with my kiddos, I have 2 kiddos, they're now teenagers, 18 and 19 years old. I mean, they love sleeping now. Didn't so much when they were little. But I remember when my eldest stopped napping, and he really needed to stop napping because nights were a real challenge. So he really, really needed to stop napping. But I loved nap time. Some days it was my favorite time of the day when I could get both kiddos napping together at the same time. Oh, that's the dream. And so when he dropped his nap, it was a sad time. It was a real sad time. It's like a period of mourning. It was just like, oh no. So insist on a quiet time. Well, 3-year-olds and quiet generally don't go well together. Don't call it a quiet time either, because 3-year-olds do not like being told that they need to be quiet. So call it like a chill out time or a siesta. Rebrand the nap time. Then they should have an easier time with it. But so that then gives them a little bit of a break, but it gives you a break as well, which I think is really important. Tori has a question. I'm going to have a big sip of coffee. My 8-month-old has started waking every 30 to 60 minutes the last few nights. That's pretty miserable. I thought she had an ear infection. But they say she's perfectly healthy. Okay. She'll go back down with rocking, which we never needed to do before. Her naps are the same. She acts tired, but just cries when I pick her up to soothe her. Oh, I'm sorry. That sounds really, really tough. Let's see if we need to tweak our daytime to get back with our nap time. Generally, there isn't so much of a change at around 8 months old. But Tori, if you're still here, how long are you going between naps during the day? Because I wonder if we need, and how many naps, and more or less total daytime sleep, how much is that? Because that will be helpful for seeing if we need to tweak that. Because if we suddenly start getting wonky night times where your child is not unwell, then especially with wake ups like that happening like that, where if your child's going back down to sleep fairly quickly, oftentimes a tweak of our daytime can help us get back on track with the nighttime. If you were having big long awake periods during the night, so you were your child was, generally we see this around, no, it's a little bit early, we see this around 9 months old, where we would going down to sleep is maybe a little bit more challenging, but okay, and then getting a chunk of sleep. But then after maybe midnight, being woken up, they wake up, and then they struggle to get back down to sleep. Nothing's wrong. They're not unwell. They're not sick. There's nothing like that happening. But that's generally a sleep regression. Big long awake period when nothing seems to be wrong. They're just wide awake, and they're not necessarily either happy to be awake alone. They're happy to be awake with you watching them, with you there, and they just want to be awake. That's generally a sleep regression. And there's one coming, unfortunately, at 9 months. That's the next one coming, but it doesn't sound like that because of the getting back down to sleep. So she takes a nap at 10, 11, and one at 2, 4. How are you trying to stick with the 2, 3, 4, or a rough version of 2, 3, 4? So awake for 2 hours, nap, awake for 3 hours, nap, and then awake for 4 hours and down for the night. That's the 2, 3, 4. Are you trying to stick with some sort of variation of that? So, because it may be that first nap is a little late. 11. Well, it looks like we're getting a good total amount of daytime sleep. 3 hours is the average for this age, so you're kind of getting the average there. But average may not be what it is that she needs. She may need a little bit of a different kind of daytime schedule. But 3 hours, and I imagine your daytime schedule is pretty good, looking at what you've said. So she's waking up every 30 to 60 minutes, and it sounds like it's probably if you were thinking that she was sick, it sounds like it's probably quite a big cry, and it's not just a little bit of a fussy, oh, I'm awake. It sounds like it's quite a big cry. The fact that you thought that she had an ear infection. And she'll go back down with rocking. Okay. What I would do would be let's see if we do need to tweak your daytime. I don't think we do. I think your daytime's looking really, really good. If you're not struggling to get her down at the beginning of the night, that's all completely normal. Then I would work on giving her time when she wakes up to see whether she's going to be able to get herself back down to sleep, because waking up is normal, and it's normal then for children to, as they get older, to get louder when they wake up. That's really normal. So let's see if we can kind of figure out what's if your child is able to get themselves back down to sleep or not. Because if they are waking up and you're going in really quickly because you're not used to this happening, then you may be going in and waking them up even more, because you're going in and especially because you think there's something wrong, and then you're picking your child up and you're trying to help them back down to sleep. Whereas in fact, the waking up part was normal. We all wake. Anything up to 10 times a night is completely normal. So we all do this. So if your child is waking and they are kind of doing that fussy, I'd leave them be. Look at what happens when you go in. When you go in, does your child stop crying? Something you want to look at. Does your child stop crying or not? And you just say that she just cries even when I pick her up and soothe her. So it's not as if that she's just, like, oh, okay, you're here now, let's go. It seems, but is the cry that you're actually keeping her awake cry or not? Because if this is something that she's just suddenly started doing, and you're picking her up and she's crying when you're trying to soothe her, it could be that actually your soothing is keeping her awake and she's getting frustrated because you're keeping her awake and she wants to be asleep. So try different things. And this is where kind of that ladder of help is really important. So it's just going in. Does that help? Do you need to be in sort of that hands-on? Is screaming when she wakes. Try to wait a couple of minutes. Not to, yeah, no, if she's screaming, go, you're doing the right thing. Because it's, it's one thing, oh, I'm awake and I'm a bit annoyed I'm awake, fussy, and it's quite another, that screaming. So don't leave her too long doing that, because she's not going to be able to fall back asleep. Everyone in the house is then going to be awake, and that's going to be pretty miserable for everybody in the house. So I think you're going in, at the right time. If it's kind of that urgent, she's not going to be able to go to sleep. So go in and offer that sort of that help of what it is that you need to do, and then try different things, because this could be just a developmental thing, and she's just waking up. Now remember, she is dreaming. Babies dream from the exact same dream sleep we have from about 12 weeks old. So she is dreaming, and so there's a whole myriad of things that it could be. But go in and give her the help that she needs, and kind of stop and start then that help. Because if you go in and she seems to be okay, and then she's probably going to ramp up again, like, what the heck are you doing? You just stood there looking at me. What are you doing? Try then different things. Try being the hands-on. Try picking her up. And if it's not kind of soothing, or it soothes for a little bit and then it doesn't, stop and start with different things, because then actually she may want to be laid down. And it feels like it's what the heck is going to work here? What is going to work? And so you're picking her up, and if she's kind of quietens down, and you're rocking her a little bit, but then she's getting kind of really mad, stop, move her, and then see, do you just need me to be still? Do you just need me to lay you down now? So just kind of trying different things to see kind of what sticks, because it may be that she doesn't know what she wants, but she needs something and she doesn't know what it is. And so it's only when you do it that she knows that that's it. That she may just be, I just needed a hug, and then I just needed you to lay me down and to rub my back, and then I can go back down to sleep. Because if there's nothing wrong, it sounds more developmental. I don't think it's anything to do with your daytime routine. That it's potentially is kind of craziness of the holidays, that could be sort of a little bit happening. So give her the help that she needs. So you're going in and you're helping her, but do this. You kind of got to be always one step ahead on, okay, I'm rocking you now. Okay, this is working. No, this isn't working. What are you then going to do? Are you going to try laying her down? Then what are you going to do? Are you going to rub her tummy? And just trying different things and going back and trying the same thing. Because even though you picked her up and you rocked her and were petting her back, and that didn't work, and then you lay her down and you rub her tummy, and that didn't work, and then you roll her onto her side and you rub her back, and that didn't work, and then you end up picking her up again and you're rocking her and you're patting her back, it may work then. Because sometimes it's just that she doesn't know what it is that she wants. She's awake and she's pretty furious that she's awake. And so it doesn't just mean just because the rocking and the patting didn't work, that's not what she wants. It's kind of going back and trying again, because it may be that is then what she wants. I imagine that you've tried feeding her. That's something that if you've, a lot of times people feel that if their child has gone without feeds during the night time for a little while, that they no longer need that. It could be that she's hungry, and so I would definitely try offering a feed, even if she has not been feeding during the night for a little while. Offer a feed, because if she's hungry, she's not sleeping. Rumbly tummy. And so children's needs, then their need for calories does change as they grow older. They need more. If they don't have as much during the day, they're going to wake hungry. So I would just offer a feed. Then if that does help, then you'll then know, okay, the feed helped. So then you know the next day you need to try and get more calories in during the day. You've got all day to do that. So let's just say one feed during the night helped, or an extra feed during the night helped. you've then got the whole of the next day to get those extra calories in. It's not just thinking about it as a nighttime. You've got, if that's a breastfeed, a 10-minute breastfeed, you've got the entire day to get 10 minutes of an extra breastfeed in. And that can be, obviously you could add a minute on to each feed. You could add some more milk to solid foods that you're giving. You've got the entire day to try and get that extra in. It's not just I've got to get an extra feed in, because that can be really tricky to do. Spread it out over the entire day. If you are bottle feeding, then you can see how many ounces it was that helped, and you've got the entire day to get those extra ounces in. Be mindful as well of, especially when things are crazy, of did you not feed so great? Did you maybe, there was the kids were running around when I was trying to give you that feed at about 10 this morning, and you were just really distracted because they were goofing around and you didn't feed as long. If your child does not feed as long at nighttime, during the day, they're going to make up for it with a nighttime wake up. So I would definitely try a feed during the night. If your child wakes up, falls back asleep, but then they quickly wake up, that may actually be hunger. So I give it a go, and definitely give it a go. And it doesn't mean that you are getting extra feeds in your nighttime. You then know that was it, and then you can try and get that in the next day, making up for that during the next day. Children are really great at, the majority of children are really great on not missing out on calories. They miss out, they're hungry, and they're going to wake up during the night for it. Really normal. The children get distracted, and there are all, they'll feed enough to take the edge off their hunger. So they're no longer feeling hungry. But if they were taking a 15-minute feed, or they were getting 5 ounces, and then now they're getting really distracted and they're only taking a 7-minute feed, or they're only getting 3 ounces, they've missed out on that. And if they've not made up for it, they need it at some point. And so they're going to wake up for it. They'll take enough to take that edge off the hunger, but they're still missing out on some calories there. So I just try feeding. Try doing the other things first, and then feed may be your last resort, but it's a quick, you'll know whether it works. It's not that, if your child then continues to wake up every 30 to 60 minutes, that wasn't it. But if now after a feed they suddenly sleep for 4 hours, that was it. So then you'll know night. You try doing this tonight, you'll know. But we've all woken up hungry during the night. Sometimes I'd feel a bit screamy as well. And I bet with brothers being at home, I bet they're pretty distracting. And then you may be noticing that drop. And as well, remember, as a child grows, they need more calories each day. As they become more physically active, they're burning more calories. They will need more calories each day as well. So that changes. But let me know how you get on, because I'm really interested into what actually works here. I think the feed is going to work. I think that's probably it. But do your ladder. Feed will kind of be your last thing at the top. That's at the top of the ladder. You don't want to instantly go in and feed, because it may not be that. And then we're just adding extra feeds in. And what can happen there is if your child doesn't need those feeds, and if we look at, it could be then that they're getting big feeds then that they need then less during the day because they got it at nighttime. Now feeding, if you're breastfeeding, feeding is not just calories in. If your child is unwell, we know that they need to feed to soothe, and just hanging out and just getting that closeness and that skin to skin. Feeding is so much more than just calories in. And it could be, if you are breastfeeding, that it is just that closeness. Maybe if you have siblings who are now home, normally at school, and now they're home, and she's needing to share you, that she's now using this time as wanting some one-on-one time with you as well. Because if she's kind of feels that she's missing out on that, and that one-on-one time, that I call it filling up the touch tank. It's the same as milk, really. It's the same as calories in. That one-on-one time with you, that filling up their touch tank, that time that you get touching, whether that's holding and feeding or skin to skin, all of these things. It's like filling up their touch tank. If during the day they didn't get that, so we'll often see this when parents return to work, because then after spending all this time with parents, then, oh, she started solids 2 weeks ago, how fun and exciting. What's her favorite food? What does she love? It's so exciting when they start solid foods. Well, they're not really that solid, unless you're baby-led weaning. But what's her favorite food? Yeah, you want to fill up the touch tank as well. So it could just be that if your child needs to have a hug, that they'll wake up for that hug. So you can, oh yeah, like strawberries and banana. I am with her on that. Definitely. But if you don't fill up the touch tank, your child is going to wake up and they're going to be seeking out that touch time. And so it could just be then a hug is all they need. So when you can, you want to be getting good quality time. And if you have a baby carrier, that's really great to do that, because you can still then be doing other things. You could be vacuuming. You could be playing with the other kids. You could be doing everything you need to do, and you're filling up their touch tank. So we often see this with kiddos. So I would then, as she's formula fed, you know exactly how much she's getting, so that's a little bit easier. I'd offer maybe like, don't overdo it. Maybe offer like 2 or 3 ounces at night, just to see. Let's see. You may want to keep a diary as well. She's just started on solid foods of what she's eating, and see if you have a more challenging night. Let's say after strawberries or after broccoli or something, because it could be that her tummy's just getting used to these foods, or it could be that she has a sensitivity, an allergy you'd probably know about, because an allergy would be, I think, quite evident, but a sensitivity. Some of us are more sensitive to certain foods than others. That could be, and we'll often see that, and often see that with actually allergies, with nighttime sleep, real screamy wake ups. But I've seen this lots of times with milk allergies, screamy, quick wake ups. But obviously that's then something that you're not going to suddenly start seeing now. You would have seen that for a long time. But that's quick, urgent, screamy wake ups, and lots of them are often, I'll sometimes see that with dairy allergies. Okay, look at the time. But Tori, let me know how you get on. I'll be super interested to see how she does. But I think you'll be back on track pretty quick. Okay, so our next Q&A is end of January, the last Tuesday of the month. I'm not even sure what date that is. Let's just have a little look and see. Oh, so that's like ages away. That is the 31st of January, last Tuesday a month, Q&A. Q&As are going to be completely normal in Slumber Academy. We're not having a break there, just because of how lucky we are that how everything's working out with dates and things. So we are this Thursday, next Thursday, our Q&As are as normal. So if you're a Slumber Academy member, by all means join me Thursdays 9 a.m. Pacific for our live Q&A. It's a great time if you don't have much going on to be working on some more independent sleep or getting that plan together. So a lot of times now people are, okay, we got some time off work, let's just do this. So now's a great time for getting that, joining one of our live Q&As in Slumber Academy, and let's get that plan to get together for you. We can do that. Get your plan together so that we can get you some more independent, longer stretches of sleep. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful, wonderful festive season, whatever you celebrate or not. I hope you have a wonderful festive season, and I will be back in at the end of January. See you soon. Bye-bye.